So, Mr. Lowry.
Good afternoon.
Like me and you, the only ones in the class. You signed the roll?
Oh, not yet. Reminder.
Oh. All right, I guess we can get started. Another person, Miss Connor. Okay. All right. So we kind of got started with I think chapter 7. What I did, I posted. Let's go over the first. Go over the program. I posted chapter 6 test just now, and the quiz. Let's look at the assignments. If I can get to it, 1 and 2. All right, go to modules. All right. Chapter 6. All right. So what happened in chapter 6? I gave two programs dealing with function, well, dealing with the variables, all right, and functions. The first program, I just wanted you to write a program with global variables and then create the function without passing anything so that you can see if you write a program with global variables, they are global to every function that you create. So this assignment says write a program declaring and initializing two variables with the values 8 and 2. So at the very beginning of your program, before you start your main, you're gonna have two variables called, it could be num1 equal 8 or int num1 equal 8 and int num2 equals 2. All right, and then you're gonna have your main function, and then what you're gonna do, you're gonna create create another function. All right, this other function will calculate and output the sum and product of the two numbers. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna need two other variables because we always want you to calculate and store into the variable, then print the variable. You don't have to, but we just try to get you into that habit. So in that function, you're gonna do your calculations, assign a sum to a sum variable. You're gonna do the calculations, assign the product value to a variable, and then in that function, you're gonna output the product and sum. All right. And it says that make sure that your labels that you label your output, all right, and give the spaces and whatnot. It says use a function to accomplish this and declare the two variables global, all right? So make sure they are global, all right? Now, that's the first assignment. The second assignment, you're doing the process is the same, but the way you go about doing it is different. So this is the second program. It says, write a C++ program declaring and initializing two variables with the values 8 and 2. So pretty much exactly the same thing. Now it says once declared, use a function to calculate. So you're doing the exact same thing, calculate and output the sum and product of the two numbers. Make sure your labels are appropriate. Now, but what it says here, again, use a function, all right? And it says declare your variables as local variables. Now, the variables for the value of 8 and 2 should be declared within the main. You can declare your other two variables and then they're gonna have to be passed. The value is gonna have to be passed to another, to that function and used to calculate your product and your sum. So in your function that you create outside of the main function, you can introduce your other two variables such as sum and product within that function. Because if you introduce them inside the main, then you're going to have to initialize them to 0 and pass them, and the thing is you can't pass a variable that has no value, all right? You get errors. So they both do the exact same thing, but they're done a little bit different. Because when you're passing the values of a variable, remember you got to use your argument list. So you got to pass those values in that argument list. Your prototype gonna have an argument list. Your function header of your defined function gonna have an argument list. So you got to remember those things. And if you look back at the notes when we worked with functions, you'll see how we've done that. We did that. So anybody have any questions so far about the two assignments? One of them, the variables are global, meaning that you can use them anywhere. Once you declare them, you can use them anywhere. The second one, you're gonna have a local variable. You're gonna have the value for the 8, the variable for 8, and the variable assigned to 2. They're gonna be local to inside the main, and then you can have sum and num, or sum and product in the user-defined function. All right, and you're gonna calculate and print in that function. Okay, so that's the two assignments. All right, so let's look at the notes. So we kind of started our last chapter, and in that chapter we talked about garbage in, garbage out, kind of making sure when you write code as a programmer, you don't want a user to be giving you data that is incorrect. And like I said, you can't really control data that's incorrect, but you can contain it to a certain limit, all right? And if you look down here, this is a program that was written to calculate a person's gross pay. But if you look at this program, what happened is it says, enter the number of hours worked. And what this person did, or the data entry person did, when they inputted the hours worked, they entered 400. Now, 400 could be valid if a company had to go back so many years or so many months to give you back pay. But for a common weekly salary, 400 hours, 400 hours is way more than the normal day hours, to be entered. So that should be some type of red flag. So what a company can do is, rather than just allow a person to see in hours worked, they can have a minimum limit and a maximum limit. Remember, we use and or. You could say, okay, you can have it to where you can have an if, depending on your logic, or you can do a while if you want to keep entering the value over and over. So you could say if number of hours worked is less than 0, or if it's a 40-hour work week, or greater than 40, then you can flag them, give them an error. All right. So that way, a person still can cheat you, because if the clerk that was inputting the information had a boyfriend working for the company, she could always give him the maximum of hours, even though he didn't work, but that's just something you have to check. But you can control the amount of hours based on the amount of hours that can legitimately be earned in that period of time. And then even if you wanted to validate the pay rate, normally a pay rate in a company, you might say, okay, the person making the lowest amount is whatever. The person making the highest amount is whatever. And that way you won't have somebody going outside the limit of what the pay rate for people. But like I said, at the same time, you can still be susceptible to a person cheating or giving another person so many hours, because the computer does not know who's inputting the data and whatever. You'd have to have it matched or validated against some other data. And that's where many times when you have, I don't think we did data files. Did we do data files in this class? We didn't do data files. We didn't do data files, right?
I don't think so.
Right. So what happens is, normally what you can do when you work with data files, next semester or next class, you're gonna have it when you go to 193. You'll be dealing with data files. And what could happen is, you could create a data table where you can have a person's name, a person's salary. I will not say salary, person pay rate, person name, person pay rate, person name, person pay rate. Now, that could be a file that you can access the data and match it against against what somebody input, or use it to calculate something. You got what I'm saying? So now you got files that have already been created and may have been already approved, saying, okay, let's go through these names and validate these pay rates. And you validated them. And so now when it's time to do the payroll, the only field that you're going to be concerned about is the hours worked, because that's something that changed randomly, like say every week. Pay rate might not change every week. So you can have that file there and pull that data and do whatever. All right. Now, I'll show you, I'll give you an example what I'm talking about, and we'll continue. So say we wanted to, and this is just, it's nothing you're going to have to be responsible for, just showing you how you can do data file. All right. So if I'm going to do a data file, I have to do fstring. I have to load a file stream. So I'll do pound include fstream. All right. And then I need to create an object for my input file. So I'll do ifstream for input file and give it a name, indata. So indata going to be what I'm going to use to grab my data. All right. But now I need to open a file and associate that input file object with that actual data file name that I'm going to create. So I can say in data, which is my object dot open, because I always have to open a file to use it. Just like when we on a computer, we have to open a image file to do whatever we want to it. We have to open a Word document to modify it or do whatever. We have to open an Excel file. Same thing, same principle when you're dealing with programming and accessing files. You have to open it, have that access to open it. So I'll call this input file or input.dat. All right, or input.dat. But now I must create me a file. So now I'll do new. All right, and I'll call it, I have to give it the same name. All right, and we know in Linux or Unix, the uppercase and lowercase matters. All right. Now, what happened? It put me in this new file, input.dat. So what I could do, I could create some names. I'll say Tom. All right, and I'll say say he make 7.28. I'll say Billy, he make 8.23. Megan, say make 7.99. And we'll do two more. Say Susie, if I could type, she make 9.23, and Mark makes say 8.25. All right. So we have what? 5 names with 5 what? Pay rates. So what happens is in my program now, this is the file I'm going to be reading from, and now I know that I'm going to be reading from this file, so I can do something like this while in file. All right. Okay, while in file, and then I want to read in name, and I want to read in I'll just say rate. But now what I need to do here, I'm gonna go here. I need to create those variables. So I need to go in here and do what? String. Do I have string? Yep, I have string. I'll do string name and double rate. Now, remember the rule we had when we was reading data from the keyboard? Remember we said that we need to know the data types and they have to be in the proper order, because what it can do, it can throw your data off. If this was if I was reading and I had the name as string, which is good, and this as int, what would happen is it'll read Tom as the string, then it'll only read the 7 as the int, then it'll read the 0.28 as the string, then it'll try to read Billy as an int. Then all of a sudden my data is all thrown off and I got all kind of errors, all kind of problems. So the concept of when you're inputting from the keyboard and having the data, making sure the data is in the proper position, the same thing works when you're dealing with data files. Now, another thing we can do, and like I said, that was CN. Do the CN. What we can do, we can input the hours work here. So but the program that we looked at didn't have that. Okay, but we could put in the hours work, and now we can actually match this against what our actual data is. So a boss can go in and say, okay, let's look and see what our employees what we use to calculate our payroll for this pay period, and they will be able to pull up this file and look and see Tom at this rate at this month, Billy at this rate and this number of hours, Megan at this rate, this number of hours. So you are able to look at that. Now, and what this does, this removes all user input, okay? So all of a sudden now, the user only inputs in the file here, and this can be easily checked, you know, by someone. Now, it still can be manipulated to where you can change, like a person can go in and say, I'm gonna change this 7 to an 8. That can be done. So, you know, you're always, anytime you have computers, anytime you're dealing with technology, you always are susceptible to hacking or intrusion or whatnot. So never feel safe that all is foolproof. You know, there's always a situation where things can happen. All right. And so now I'll do int hours. All right. And you know, hours we know can be float, but we'll just put int hours. And so now what I'll do here, I'll read in the hours, because remember I added that other one. All right. Now, what happens is now I can read out. Once I read it, I could calculate. I have to come up with another variable because I'm creating calculating the pay. All right. And I'll say pay, and then I could say total. All right. Now you say, well, why I'm doing total? I'll show you in a little while. So what happens here, now I can say pay is equal to rate times hours, right? So I read in a name, I read in a rate, I read in the hours, the first one, and then it's gonna calculate rate times hours to get paid, all right? And then what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna set total equal to 0 because I'm gonna use it on both sides of the equal sign, all right? I'll say total is equal to total plus pay, right? And what we're doing here, we just trying to find out how much money we're going to be dispersing for this pay period. So that's all that's happening here. So I find that. Then now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a cout. If I could type cout, and then I could say I'll do name /t. I'll do name, and then what? Name, and then I could do what? Rate. Should have did 1T, but that's good. Rate, and then I could do hours. I'll do hours first. It doesn't matter. It don't really matter. Okay, and then I can do rate. And rate, and then I'll do pay, all right? Hopefully it'll go all the way across so you can see. All right, now, so that's what I'm gonna output. Each time it read, it's gonna output that, all right? So now, so this, notice I don't have CN here, I have in file. Well, it shouldn't be in file, my fault. It should be in data. I should would have got an error there. I did the delete backspace. In data, name, all right? So, see, remember my input object was in data. I'm opening up in data, and this is the file I'm reading from. So I have to use in data anytime I want to CN, in a sense, CN something, rather than from the keyboard, from the file, I have to use the file object. All right, So let's go read it in. The see out going to write it to the screen. But then here, what I'm going to do, I can write see out for the total disbursement, and I could put total. All right. Okay, so now if I run this, when I run it, hopefully I got all my errors out, whatever. It's going to do this, do this, do this, do this, and then print out. We run it, we'll see what errors we have. All right, so notice what happened, class. Tom, 20 hours at $7.28, $7.28. His pay is $145.60. Billy, you understand? So see, I didn't have to actually input information into the program, but I inputted information into a file that I can better validate in this fashion. But the program could have been written, all right, the way we write them, all right. But everybody see this. Everybody understand pretty much how computer science works. When you really start getting into coding or whatever, a lot of the entry parts of entered values normally is it through registration and through input. Like when every week they're going to input the hours, but they're not going to be input name and rate and whatever every time, every week, every whatever. They'll have that information in a file. They'll add the other information to the file, and then you'll run and retrieve data from a file to give you the information that you should get. All right. So now let's take this program and now let's use it like they're talking about it in the book. If we did it the way we did it in the book, I could just leave all this. This doesn't matter. But I would have to take this out. All right. And here I would say what? I'd have to have choice, and I could say while choice is equals y. You understand? And that way, and I'll have to come up here and have choice. Okay. So now, now I have to set it equal to y, so it'll fall in there. If not, it won't equal a y, so it'll never do that loop. All right. So while choice is equal to y, now I don't know what pay rate is. I need to do what? I need to see in or see out first. Enter name. And then CN what? Name. So you understand what we do, we kind of teach you programming and teach it to you in the way that the computer is operating, so that when you get into the advanced courses and you learn about files and whatnot, it'll make it more understandable. You know that, hey, it's being inputted, but you don't have to input it, but it's being inputted from somewhere. All right. So CN enter your name and see out enter pay rate, and then CN rate, then see out. I'll do a /T up here or /N. Okay. Anybody with any questions so far? All right. Okay, pay rate, and then we had the last one. See out, enter. Well, enter. What was that? Hours worked. Right. And then CN hours. All right. So now, once I do all that, now what? We have a rate, we have hours, and then we can calculate what? Pay. And then being that we get paid, we could calculate a total. So as long as we perform this loop, we calculating the total. We calculating the total. And soon as we get out of it, then we can output what? The actual the actual total disbursements. Now, the only difference in this program and the other one, notice here, when we read it from a file, we didn't have inner name, inner pay rate, inner hours. So before we print out each one, we're gonna always have inner name, inner pay rate, inner hours. Then it's gonna calculate, then it's gonna print this. Inner name, inner pay rate, inner hours. Then it's gonna print this. But now, we still not finished because now we need to do what? We said while choice was equal to Y. So here I can type, oh, what did I take something wrong? Okay. All right, here I need to type what? Cout, enter Y to continue, all right? So anything other than Y, will cause the program to stop, all right? So, and now I might have to put some cn.ignores in there because I'm going from character to string and all that. So let's run it, all right? So let's run the program and see what happens now, all right? So we'll run it. Got an error. I got one character. Where's that? Oh, here we go. CN hours. All right. Run it. Okay, so see here now, before all it did was what? It actually pulled the name from the file and what? Bam, gave you your report. Now what's happening, every time I need a name, I need to type it in. So I'll type Tom, all right, pay rate, I'll say 7.38, and then hours worked, say he worked 35, and watch. So see, I should have put this on a new line, but look, the name, Tom, hours 35, pay rate $7.38, and the pay is $258.30. And do you want to type Y to continue? I type Y, it should ask me for another name. So now what? I'm inputting another name. So I'll say Billy. I forgot what Billy was making. I'll just say 8 point whatever, and I'll say 40 hours. All right. See, got it? And then at the end here, say enter Y to continue. But I'll put any other character, V, E, a letter, a number, anything. And I hit enter. And what it's going to do, it's going to output total disbursements. Total disbursements is going to equal to $258.30 plus $331.20. All right? So when I hit this and I done typed in V, that's not a Y. That's anything other than the lowercase y. Then what? That's my total. So see how it works a little differently than when you read from a file? But it's doing the exact same thing. Except that what? I could have put 400 for hours. I could have put $30 for pay rate. You understand? So you want to validate it. So let's validate something. So let's say we want to validate the pay rate, all right? So for the pay rate, we might say that what? Everybody that worked with this company makes between $750 and $1050, all right? Or not between, from $750 to $1050. So what we can do here, we could go in here and put something like this, do. All right. Oh, not double. All right. We want to do this. If I could pick this, trying to select this. Oh, I did. Okay, wait. We trying to do what? Pay rate, right? So I need to take this do in here off here. I put it in the wrong place. not necessarily, but for logic purposes. So here, so what we'll do is say, do this. We'll tab this over because this is our do. So what we want to do is we want to do this, and we're going to enter pay rate. And now we're going to say what? I'll close it. While pay is great, or not, well, rate. Rate, do this while rate is less than 7.5, right? Or rate greater than 10.5, all right? So, and semicolon. So what I've done here, what's gonna happen, this program is gonna allow you to input a name. Once you input the name, it's gonna allow you to input a rate. If I input a rate that's 3.3, it will not work because it's less than that. That'll be true. Less than greater, that'd be false, but true or false, still true. So it's gonna continue to do this until I put a rate what? In between these values. I could do the same thing for hours. If I know my weekly hour minimum, and sometimes you might want a minimum for the employees, where you might say, well, my company is prosperous and everybody that work for me, whether or not they work any hours in the week or whatever, I'll give them 5 hours. So you could do all that too, but we're not gonna do that. But you can start at 0. You can say, okay, do for the hours, and then have a while hours is less than 0 or hours greater than 40. You know, you're gonna give an error. But let's run this one right quick. So we run this one, and I need to pull this up. So like we enter the name, say we in the bill or billing. Now, say we in our rate of 12, oh, if I could type, well, 12.45. We hit enter. See what it said? Enter rate, all right? What it's doing is stuck in the loop. Now, I could have had it to where I outputted another message saying, you entered a rate that's too high or whatever, but notice what happened. I'll put 2.2. See, I'm still stuck. I'm just stuck on the rate. Until I enter a valid rate for billing, I will not, the program will not let me advance. So, and valid, and I could have put please enter a rate between whatever and whatever, but many times you may not want to do that because you don't want the, well then too, you got to trust your secretary or your clerk, because many times you want them to just arbitrarily guess a value to give them, all right? So here, I would put 8.23. Bam, now it asks for hours. So it what? It allowed me these chances to do this, and then hours. Now my hours, and I can say we didn't validate it, so I'll put 23, and now it calculated. I need to do that / in at the end. Anybody with any questions? But see, that's one of the beauties of validations. You know, like I say, you want to validate your data so that you can get as true a data as you possibly can. Because believe you me, it's nothing worse than collecting data, and sometimes collecting data over years, and you go back to try to reference it, and it's not relevant. You know, all the data that you got is wrong. You know, and you've been collecting it for a very long time. So, like I say, you want to try to control your systems. Even when we typing in information online, when you type it in an email address, they do what? They'll validate that format. Sometimes when you type in a phone number, they'll validate that format. When you type in, say, a name, they'll validate that, because what? Normally, most, well, that I know of, names don't have numbers in them, all right? So things of that nature. When you learn how to validate interest, you make your program more and more usable for the person that you're designing it for. Even if you're designing it for yourself, You're making it more usable. Because if you don't create, you got a company and you created a system, some type of management system, online system, and you asking people for their email addresses, and people are able to put in something like, okay, say mybrcc.edu. That's not an email address. You understand? So now when you go to try to contact them and you need to contact this person and you try to use that entry of that they gave you, now you can't contact them. And now you got to spend man hours to try to find them or do whatever so that you can contact them. All right? So validation is very, very, very important. And like I say, it basically says garbage in, garbage out. All right. And like I said, there's many type of validations there are. And basically what we did, we kept validating our pay rate until what? It was a good entry. And then what? Then we was allowed to continue on with the program. And there's many different ways you can validate. I could have validated where it kicked out and started over. It could validate it to where you input the wrong get the error message 3 times, it kicks you out. But as a programmer and even working with a business, you'll learn what type of schematics they want to use. Because how many people ever had a situation where they typed in the password wrong? Some companies, they might give you, and they might not even tell you, because that's a part of the security. After you type it in so many times, they'll say, you have exceeded the limit of tries. Your account has been locked. You need to do X, Y, Z, or whatever. All right. Sometimes you'll type in a password, log in and a password, and if it ain't correct, it'll just pop back up and say, and it'll clear out the login and it'll clear out the password. And now you got to try to retype everything all over again. Some of them, they'll leave the login and it'll just prompt to enter the password. And then sometimes what they'll do, if you want to be evasive, when somebody put in a login and a password, and either one of them is incorrect, the message would say, account not found, either login or password is incorrect. So they didn't tell you which one is incorrect. It'll just tell you what? One of the two is incorrect. So now if you're a hacker, you don't know if to change the login and keep the password, or keep the login and change the password. So that's some of the tricks that they use when validating information, and that's basically on the security side. All right, that's on the security side. All right. So like I said, you can put error messages if you want. The more descriptive your error messages are, the better your program is to be used. And that's normally called user-friendly. You want your program to be user-friendly because most times when you're designing something, you're designing it for an agency, and that person that's sitting at that desk or the people that's using your software, their intent is not to harm the company. So the more ease they have in using it, the more likely the company will stay with that software. Otherwise, they'll say, our people having too much issues when stuff is typed in wrong, and they got to go to the manual, they got to read a whole chapter to get to what they want. They'll scratch it, and they'll find something that's more simpler and to the point. So sometimes you got to keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. And look, using pre-test loop and post-test loop, we know what? Pre-test is the while loop, all right? So with the while loop, you have to set a value and then let it fall in. We did the do loop, which is a post-test for the rate. So what happens? So for the rate, we had actually ran this first, and then we fell into our loop, all right? But now, if we could change this, we could change this to a while loop. And if we change it to a while loop, now we can kind of modify it a little bit better. So I could take this out here. I could take this here. I'd have to remove my semicolon. I can put this here. And now, same thing, but at this time, I'm gonna have to set rate. Oh, let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay. In order for it to fall in here, I'm gonna have to set rate to something greater than what? 7.5. Otherwise, it'll never fall in here. So here, I could set rate to, I'll say equal 10, you know. But what happens? It's set to 10, but when they enter it, it's gonna overwrite. You got what I'm saying? So now, here, now I could say, while the rate is, no, but I'd have to change this. Yeah, I'd have to change. See, I have to change it altogether. So I have to say while rate is greater than this in order for it to fall in here. Wow. And now I have to use and rate less than or equal to. I got to use the equal to, right? Because now I'm including, all right? So you see how I have to change it? So if it's greater than or equal to, now it's going to allow me to fall in and do this, but then I'll see in rate. But now, the thing is here, if the rate is not valid, I need to do what? I need to print out an error message. So I'd have to do, so see how much more I'm doing, but I have to do it if I want to put out an error message. So I have to say, if rate is less than 7.5, where's the R? R rate greater than 10.5. And then now I could say, okay, do whatever, see out you have entered, well said. I'm gonna just say, please, I'm gonna kind of be evasive, please enter. All right, so please enter a valid pay rate. So at this point, they don't really know what is valid or not. I didn't tell them it has to be between what? 7.5 and 10.5. But you could do that in that. So what'll happen, it'll do this while, all right? It'll fall into here because we set it to 10, all right? Now, and then they're gonna allow you to input a rate. But then they're gonna check that inputted rate. If that rate is not between 7.5 or greater, or 10 or 10.5 or less, it's gonna get this error. It's gonna go back to this while and says, okay, do this again. Well, first of all, no, I need to go back here and say rate is equal to 10. And that's just a value I'm using because I use it at the top. So I have to set it rate back to 10 so it'll go back up here and fall in. But I already done prompt my whatever loop here, and then it's gonna fall into here, allow me to input another one. If I input the rate and it's between this and this, it's gonna allow me to continue. So let's run it. All right. So it's like I'm kind of wow. This see out, backslash. Oh no. I bet you a semicolon somewhere. Let's see. What it say? What is this on? Not on the main pay rate. So where my pay rate backslash and if this, if that, this backslash and enter that, oh, NL. All right. Okay. Run this. Okay. Now, so I enter what? Time and our pay rate. So what happens is it came in because what? I had to set pay rate as something where the pretest was going to allow it to fall in. It fell in here. Now I need to enter something. But what I enter here is going to determine whether or not I get this error message. So if I put in, say 4.54, look, invalid. Look, please enter a valid pay rate. So it went to here because it was less than 7.5. Printed an invalid, but then I had to set my pay rate back to a value that will allow me to pre-test and enter back into the loop, and then it allow me to input a pay rate. So now let me put a valid one. And like I said, you could have it where it counts so many times, after so many tries, boom, you kicked out or you locked out. Or even if you write into a file, see, that's one of the beauties too. You could grab that name, you could grab that amount, and you could have like a log file. I don't know if many of you have worked with operating systems and installation and whatnot. But what happens is log files are created so that it can monitor what is going on. And like say in this program, you could have a file that you can reference so that what? Whenever somebody make an error in something, you can access, or say an invalid entry, you can access that log file or that error file and say, attempted to input such and such a value for such and such a person. So that when you go back and do your audits, you can pull that log file and you can probably put the date to it happened. And you're going through that log file and you say, oh, Tom, somebody tried to put in a different pay rate for Tom on this date. Then again, oh, on this date, they tried to put in a different pay rate for Tom. So you can look at some consistencies, because just because they make a mistake doesn't mean they trying to be deceptive. But if you see it happening on multiple occasions, then you can go back and kind of do some investigations to say, well, wait a minute, either these two people in cahoots or something going on, or somebody has something over somebody's head and they're trying to do whatever it may be, and then you can try to get to the bottom of it. All right, but let's put in a valid one, and we'll put in again. We'll put in say we put in $10.25. That should be valid. And see now, $10.25. Oh. Pay rate greater. No, that should have worked. So I put in 10.25 here. If pay rate is greater than 10.5, why it stayed on pay rate? Something happened, because it should have came here. When I put in 10.25, if pay rate is less than this, no, it's not. If pay rate greater than this, no, it's not. So it should have continued. Because while pay rate is greater than this, it is, and pay rate is less than that. Oh, this is the problem. I'm stuck in the infinite loop, because just say do this while this whatever. This should be an if. My fault, class. This here should be, no. I wanted to do it while it's greater than, no, okay, no, that's if. Oh, I got it wrong, but we'll look at, this should be on the outer and this should be on the inner. That's the issue, because I want to do this as long as it's what I want to do this as the while. While is less than this, and I want to do this if it's this. So that's the issue here. So this should be, then it should be on the inside. This should be if. Yeah, so I messed up on that logic. Stop this. So this should be if. This should be if. And this should be while. what I'm doing. Okay. All right. All right. So this here, let me cut this. I think I'm gonna get this right. Cut this here. This, paste this here. All right. Now, while this is done, I want to do this. Cut this and paste this. Paste this. But I need to still do the CN. While this is less than this and greater than this, all right, I want to output that. And then this here, this here. Take this, take this if. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, take this information. Well, this is that, do that. And this goes inside of here. So just take that off and add this down here. All right. So what happens here? Okay. So let's look at this. While the rate is less than or whatever, I'm doing that. All right. If rate is greater than whatever, then we're gonna see out. Well, no. If rate, it'll never be greater than if it's less than that. Take this. I'm comment this. Hold up. While rate is less than, I'm gonna do this. If rate is greater than, do that. But it will never fall in at this point when I do the input rate. Okay. Take this. Oh, I just need to take the if off. So I think this should run. I got the close, open, close. I think this should run. All right. So put Tom and let's see. Come on. Hours worked, say 2.2. Nope, it didn't run. While rate is less than that and greater than that. See out, please. It was less. Oh, I know why. Because of this. I gotta do that. All right, run it again. No, the pretest didn't work. Let's see something. Tom 2. Okay, invalid 2, 10.5. Pay rate. Now it should be asking for hours work. See, it's asking for hours work. So, but what happens is I need to modify this with the pay rate because the first time it just gave me pay rate. But that's what happens. With the while, I had to change it up so and for this error message, whatever. And what I normally would do is I put a count in there. The first time I won't get the error, but after it increased, I'll get the error. So you see how now I could put in hours work and I'll put 40 and then it gave the information. Tom, 40 hours and the pay rate and then the pay. Okay? So depending on how you use it, the do will automatically do it first. There's no pretest. The while is a pretest. You would not use a for loop in this situation because the for loop allows you to what? Iterate so many times. So that would not be feasible in this situation. All right. So like I say, your logic would change somewhat, but it'd be performing basically the same way. Right? You can write a loop to where it stays infinitely in something until you enter a value, or you could allow it to print out an error message and give a value. All right. So, and what this is saying is, rather than write your error message information in your program, what you can do is have logic in a function that can be called. All right. So let's change this back to the way it was. Let's see. Control Z. Oh no. Stop there. And what that's saying is, oh no, not Control A. What it's saying is, I'm gonna take all this see that if I'll take that out. I want it to do what it do. All right, so we'll take it back to where we had to do. All right, let's see. All right, so we have our do. Okay, now notice here we have whatever do, enter pay rate, whatever. So what we can do here, enter whatever, while pay rate is whatever. Now, we could have a statement that says something like, if rate, right, is less than 7.5, right, and or rate greater than 10.5, right? Now we could call a function, and whatever that function may be, we could say our rate ERR. Okay, we call it that. So what'll happen is now we calling a function that we have to create, all right? And all this function we're gonna create to do is just say output some text, all right? So I'll just put up here, I'll say void not out, rate ERR, all right? That's my prototype, okay? I've called it right here when I got the error. So if I type in the pay rate and it's less than 75, and if it's greater than 1050, that's about 7.5, and greater than 1050, I want to call an error message. So now I need to go down here and specify what I want to say in that error message. All right, and now I can say void rate ERR, right? No semicolon because I'm defining it. And now in here, I could just put whatever I want. I could do something like see out, whatever, and try to make a design or something to do whatever, or a window or something. I don't know if I can type. What's going on here? See out. I type. Do that. And all I'm doing, I just trying to be a little creative or something. But yeah, you don't have to do nothing like this. See, and it could be a whole paragraph of what and why and what not or whatever. All right. So what I'll do is I'll just say, I'll put 2 T's at the beginning. If I could click. backslash n. All right, and I'll put an extra inline here. All right, so now when I run it, and did I close my function? Yes. All right, so now watch when I run it. Hopefully I got all my errors out. And it's gonna ask me for a name. So I enter a name, I'll say Tom. Enter a pay rate, 2.2. See? So now what? I could call a function, and if it's some text I want to explain what and why, or give some information as to the process of doing something, because it doesn't have to be payroll. It could be something else I'm working on, and I'm getting some kind of error message, or I want to put out an error message, and I want to explain. I could have that function set up, and then it calls it. Now, what I can do too is make a generic error message function. Whereas rather than say invalid rate enter, every time I get some type of invalid input, I could just say invalid entry. Every time, got an invalid entry. So therefore, now I have only one function, and I'm calling that only calling that one function every time what? There's some type of issue going on with input. Invalid entry. Call that function invalid entry. And that way you don't have to what? Make sure that what? Oh, I'm dealing with the hours worked, but it's saying invalid pay rate because what? You're referencing the wrong function at the wrong time. So those are some of the things you can do, all right? And like I said, it just makes your program a little more powerful, depending on how you do it and what you do it. So like I say, you can do that to create functions, and this is showing you ways to do functions, all right? Now, we did somewhat what we validated a string, all right, where a string can be compared to another string if it's yes, if it's no, if it's not yes, if it's not no. Same thing works when like when we're doing if it's not equal to whatever, a string is equal to yes, if it's equal to yes. So I could set up a string, all right, to equal yes, and then while if it's not equal, while it's not equal to yes, perform whatever. But when it says seeing the input, seeing a string value, I have to type YES, not just Y. I'd have to type the entire string, right? Because I'm trying to validate for the entire string. Okay, so that's something that you have to consider too. All right, and that's just validating with string. All right. Defensive programming. Input validation is part of the practice of defensive programming. Throughout input validation, thorough input validation anticipate both obvious and unobvious errors. Because what? What's an obvious error? If you type in somebody's name and you add an extra character or whatever, that's obvious. But like I say, an unobvious could be like you have, like I said, with the payroll, and you got salary, not salaries, but pay rates, and then you got somebody getting $25 an hour when everybody in the company, the most they make is $10 an hour, and then you know that's some type of that's an unobvious error. Somebody just tried to give somebody a whole lot of money. All right, so those are the type things. And then sometimes what? Empty input. You don't want a value to be empty. Sometimes you want a value to be entered for a particular input. All right. So it says another often overlooked type of error is the entry of the wrong type of data. Because what? If I'm asking for string data, if I'm asking for numeric data and you type string data, it could cause issues. All right. So this happens, for example, when the program attempts to read integer, but the user inputs a real number or a string. We know that what? If the computer is looking for integer and you enter a float value, it's going to take the integer part and it's going to automatically store that other the remaining part, the tail end of that the floating point value into that next input. All right, that next CN input. So you got to watch that. So it says that most programming languages provide library functions that can be used to avoid this type of error. Quite often you will find functions similar to the isInt, isReal functions discussed in chapter 6. All right, this is used to use these functions in an input validation algorithm. You typically follow these steps. You read in input as a string. And remember, I talked to you, I think earlier in the semester, at the very beginning, most times programmers, this is the practice, programmers read in all data as string. Once they read it in a string, then they can take if it's a number, you can read a number as string. Then you take that number and convert that number. If you know that number should be integer, then you just convert it from that string to integer. If you know that number should be float, you convert that number from float, from string to float. All right. So that's normally what was done. And what happens? I could give you an example. Like, let me close this program out. Clear all this out. So there's a function called string. What's happening? Oh, I'm still in. It's called string to integer. All right. All right. And they got a string to real, but let's just do the one string to integer. All right. So what I can do is I could take a string value, but that value has to be what? A number, correct? I could take that number that's declared as a string, and I can actually convert it. All right. So if I do something like string, and I'll say 1999. Okay, I'll just take that number 1999. All right. What I can do is I can do something like this. I could do cout. Well, that's wrong. String num equals. All right. So I initialized it to 1999. If I do cout num, it's just gonna output what? And I'll say num. I use my colon. All right, num. If I output num, right? So if I just output num, it's just gonna output that value as a what? As a string. That's all it's doing. I thought I ran it. All right, so it just outputted it as a string. But watch this. If I try to do something like this, cout, no, not here. If I do something like this, cout plus num, all right? And I'll do N9. All right, if I try to do this, I'll probably get an error because it cannot add. You understand? Num is what? A string. But if I take num, I can do this. I'll say, okay, int, creating an integer variable, and I'll say number, if I could type, is equal to string to integer num. All right. All of a sudden, I took what? The string value of num and converted it from string to integer. This is the command or the function. Now I can go down here and now I can output plus number. Plus number would be 1999 plus 1. I mean, yeah. So when I run the program this time, I should get 1999 and 2000. Because what? 1 added to the integer 1999 is what? 2000. So everybody see how there are functions that you can use to take values and convert them so that it makes it much easier for you to use. All right, you read it in, but now you're gonna you can convert it and use it the way you want to use it. Okay, so those are some of the functions that it's talking about, where you can convert and whatnot. All right, so anybody have any questions? Any questions? Class? No question? Hello? All right. So if we look back here, I don't think I have any assignments for you on that chapter. All right. No, I don't have any assignments. So like I say, I want you to finish up your assignments for chapter 6. All right. And next week we have time to finish that up. We'll have class. And like I say, I can answer questions. Anybody want to go over something so we can go over stuff again or whatnot? I'm gonna post the assessment again so that you can take the assessment. All right. This time I'll probably use the points that you make as bonus points. So try to do your best to get more bonus points. All right. The final exam, make sure what you have a webcam because you're gonna use the responders, but you gotta make sure you use the webcam. All right, they're gonna have the others didn't, you didn't have to have the webcam, but the finals you're gonna have to have the webcam. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Anybody with questions? Questions? Okay. All right. So I'll see y'all on next class period. Do my work. Make sure you're up to date with all your assignments. The tests I've made available. All the tests and the quizzes up until May 3rd, the makeups. But test 6, you got that test 6. Well, I'm gonna open up test 6. But all the tests, they're gonna open up on the 26th, which is what? Sunday. Is it Sunday? I think it's Sunday. The 26th, which is Sunday. They're gonna close on the 3rd, which is that Sunday night. So you have an extra opportunity, because if you notice, I gave you an extra attempt. If you didn't take it at all, well, you got that many times to take it. But you got an extra, if you took it and you said, man, I made an 80, but now I understand a little bit more about loops or whatnot, you can go back and take that test again and try to improve. Because I want to grade you on your knowledge, what you know now, not what you knew at the time. I want your knowledge as of what you know at the end of the class period. So take the test, and like I say, I'm gonna set up the responders on those previous ones. So you're gonna have to have responders, and like I say, try to do your best, make the best grade, and I'll also post that assessment again. All right. Anybody with any questions? If there's no questions, I'll see y'all next week. Have a good day. Be safe, all right? Why is not going? Oh, there you go. Oh, it's here.